Welcome to Wear Your Cape to Work, a podcast hosted by Project Insight. We think that project and program managers are the real superheroes of every organization. They wear their capes to work every day, and we want to celebrate them. Our guests have poured their superpowers into driving successful projects across every industry. We want you to hear their stories to be inspired to wear your own cape to work. I'm Trina Schatz, and today my co-host Steve West and I will be talking with Mehul Shah, the Senior Director for the PMO and Operations at Universal Destinations and Experiences. Basically think Universal Studios. He started out in electrical engineering and found his way through data analytics, then into project management. He's worked at PMOs in many different industries at companies like GE, Siemens, Scholastic, and now Universal. And he's going to share about his superpowers of techno-functional leadership in building great teams that deliver the best project outcomes. And you'll hear a little bit about what it's like to work next door to roller coasters. Thank you for joining us today, Mehul.
Thank you. Thanks.
Steve and I met you, of course, at the PMI Global Summit, and we were there exhibiting as a company, Project Insight was, and we were making superhero avatars out of every project management professional who came to our exhibit. And I remember that you came by and made your avatar, and eventually we got everybody these little mugs. I think you brought yours today, Steve. Do you have yours too? We put these superhero mugs together for Wear Your Cape to Work because we truly believe that project management professionals like yourself are the superheroes of every organization. You bring your strengths and your talents and your superpowers to work every day with you and put them into play for successful project outcomes, great delivery, product launches, and go-to-market strategies, starting PMOs. And we're so excited to be able to talk to you about all of that today and your experience. Can you tell us, though, you started out in electrical engineering, I saw on your LinkedIn profile, and I'd love to hear how you made that transition from electrical engineering aspirations to, it looked like, data analytics and then on to project management.
It's a long story, but I am happy to. First of all, thank you for having me on. This is a great opportunity for me to talk about something that I'm very passionate about. Uh, I did start off in a very technical field, like you researched on my LinkedIn profile. And initially, I started my career in the technology space with General Electric and Accenture. And I played very key roles in helping uh, own and spearhead initiatives to modernize our legacy infrastructure as well as our technology stacks at both companies. As I did that, what I understood very well is that in the real world, you cannot achieve anything by yourself. You need a team, and it needs to be a coordinated, collaborative effort to be successful, which meant that I had to work with teams that brought different strengths to the table, that obviously had unique domain knowledge about the key initiatives that I was leading. And as a package, we were going to be successful. By ourselves, we were going to be failing at what we did. And I very quickly understood that building relationships and understanding how we work cohesively is going to be leading to more successful outcomes for the business. And it's going to help us make that business impact with a lot more, agility. Some of my early leaders noticed that I had a strength to be able to bring that collective energy and enthusiasm and build that into a machine that is going to spin out more and more impactful projects and deliver successful outcomes for the business. And that kind of really led me to start discovering myself from being a technologist to a techno-functional leader. And now working in an organization where we have to build some of those bridges in a cross-matrixed environment. So how do you build that backbone for any function and help get its products or services through the door? That's something that I've noticed over the last 20 years has been a natural progression for my career. And hence that transition from being an analytical thinker to
Hmm.
more of a leader that is looking at complementary skill sets and bringing them uh, uh, to a logical, cohesive conclusion. So
I love techno-functional leader. Is that your phrase? Are we coining it to here today on Wear Your Cape to Work? I love that.
I'm happy to do it. I think I should have added that
Yeah,
along with the
That's the
we
project
should.
superhero.
insight
I'm going to
logo.
get like a
Yeah.
Sharpie and write on there. That's a terrific term. I think it really defines. I'm taking these, technical things that people know, but I'm finding the functional ways that people are cohesive, like you talked about in their teams. And I don't know, even just hearing these last 5, 6, 7 sentences, I can tell that it's awesome to work on your team, that you have a passion for it. And I'm glad that someone noticed that that was your strength. That's very cool.
You mentioned right away that you started working on these, I guess it's almost like a modernization projects. And did you find yourself just kind of naturally leading a small tech team, just kind of right out of the gate? Is that
Mm,
how that went down?
Exactly. So obviously, early on in our careers, we don't get to lead very large teams because
Hmm.
our leaders at that point want us to showcase what we're capable of, right? So
sure.
they'll give us smaller initiatives that they want to see how we bring those to life and launch them and deliver them and how we did it. It's both the what and the how, right? So what did you deliver and how you did it?
Hmm.
And what I was able to do is when I started my career, this was about 20 years ago, there was this massive rush to modernize legacy infrastructure.
Mm,
A lot of what we used to do in the technology space, especially in the IT space at that point, we had physical data centers, physical servers. VMware, I remember as a company was becoming a huge disruptor in that domain, and virtualization of servers was a big deal.
Yeah.
Business intelligence, if you guys remember, was
mm,
becoming a huge area of focus because using products like VOXI, for example, and how SAP and Oracle were disrupting that space became
mhm,
extremely important. So, uh, what I was able to do is I was part of a leadership program at
huh,
GE, where I kind of spent a large part of my career so far. And they gave me opportunities in different businesses on small rotational assignments to be able to lead these smaller teams.
Hmm.
And it literally was, hey, here's something that we need you to achieve in the next 6 to 9 months. This is a business driver, so I wasn't necessarily being given something that was not business critical. Quite the contrary, it was something that they really felt was uh, somewhere we needed to move the needle, drive impact. And so some of the areas I just mentioned are those that I got a chance to lead. And I was able to successfully demonstrate that we could make a huge improvement in some of how we were able to modernize our infrastructure. How do we build a more uh, intuitive, data driven reporting
mm.
standard that can be used to make decisions? How do you bring some of that insights through data? How do you tell those stories?
When you spoke at the PMI Global Summit, you were a
Yes.
featured speaker there. Congratulations! And I
Thank you.
actually saw so much buzz after your talk. I mean, on the
Mhm.
internet from the people who were attending, there were a lot of takeaways that people had after your discussion. And for our audience who wasn't there, the PMI Global Summit is the Project Management Institute's global event that they have on an annual basis. It was hosted here in LA in September, and project management professionals from all around the world come together to have learning experiences and certifications and hear from other experts and find vendors that are selling different new products. And so Mehul was there and he gave a talk about the power of people and processes and technology in transforming a PMO. But one of the takeaways that I saw after that talk was that your data should do something for you.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what you're saying about your time at GE and I'm guessing your time at subsequent places, Scholastic, um,
Yes.
Siemens. Tell us a little bit about how that experience early on at GE has it been the same as you've changed industries? Has it been different? Is the PMO idea kind of conceptually the same no matter what industry you're in?
So thank you. Great question, Trina, by the way. People, process, and technology are the three pillars of any successful functional team, is kind of the ideology that I live with every day I come to work. And data by itself is becoming even more critical to businesses as we move into the era of AI, machine learning, natural language processing, LLMs. So I would say that, if data was important and a key component of how we were able to report out our KPIs, how we were able to provide visibility to our C-suite, make decisions, the right decisions objectively, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I was with GE. Now it's not optional, it's not negotiable, and as a result, in the last couple of years, one of the things that I have realized is that um, we generate, as a PMO, so much data every day, right? We look at resource pools, we look at schedules, we look at the intake queue, we look at how do we need to prioritize all the work, we look at what the annual plan is, what are all the different stakeholders, how the work is distributed by different segments that we support within the business. It's just remarkable that we've just never put enough thought into how we could leverage that data and help inform our key leaders at the top of what's going on, because that's the question that I keep hearing every single day from my C-suite executives. What did you do for me today? What
Right.
are you kind of aligned to the same strategic goals that we have established? How is your team moving the needle on that? What progress have you made? What are you going to be able to deliver, right? And telling that story through the lens of data is so much more easier and also more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing I'll say is that, of course, this does not mean that the human element goes away, or when you have opinions or you have ideas, they should still exist. I think data is just complementing that in an objective way. So I feel like it's gotten to the point where any organization that is not using and leveraging its own data, that's a huge missed opportunity.
So, you talked about making these decisions on the data. What are the things that you report on and work on daily? Like what data points or outputs are are the most important or most valuable that you find?
Yeah, I think for us, there's, I would say, about two or three big KPIs that we really consider our North Stars. One is how well are we managing our resource capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you have a limited number of resources, and any organization does not matter if you're a Fortune 10 company or a small business, and you want to do everything. You want to deliver 100 different types of products, services, content to your guest, to your customer. So, what is it that you're able to do? And that's number one. What type of skills does your team have? What type of capacity do they have? Do you have the right mix? Do you need to invest more in a certain type of skill set that's becoming more in demand? Are there other skill sets that need to be retrained and repurposed? So that's number one. Number two, it's about keeping an eye on where the demand is, because my team services all kinds of different business segments across, um, spanning, our guests within Florida, our guests that are outside of Florida, international tourists. So it's keeping an eye on where we see the demand, where the need lies, right? Where's the business need? What type of projects are we anticipating to be coming and kind of hitting us? How much more emphasis do we need to put on one segment versus the other? If we're building a new attraction, if we're building a new theme park, that is an endeavor by itself. What is that going to need? And then the third thing I would say is data is really helping us make much faster decisions as we do that, right? Decisions earlier that we were sometimes, when I came in to my role, were made based on guesstimates or
Right.
based on hearsay or
Hmm.
based on I heard this or I heard that. Now we're basically going and having another filter that yes, you're hearing that. Is that what is truly happening on the ground?
Yeah. So you
So
could.
having that is so helpful. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. So basically, with the data, you can prove what your gut instinct is telling you. Now
Yes.
you can prove it because you've logged that capacity, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
And I want to intersect you too here
Yeah.
because you and I spoke briefly before our conversation today, and you talked about your passion for the intersection of data and technology and project management.
Yes.
And, Steve, you're here representing, a project management software, Project Insight, and how Project Insight can make that data visible to the C-suite, to the project management team, to the people doing the work to make those data-driven decisions about what comes next. Do we need change? Do we have to pivot? Do we have to have, what do we know about our resources and capacity? So, Mehul, from your passionate experience with, project management, how do those two intersect in a way that you see today and maybe on into the future?
Absolutely. I think project management has evolved from a time when I remember earlier in my career, we did not even feel the need to have a PPM tool, right? We felt like, well, we have Microsoft Project, we have Excel, and all I need to do is put together a schedule, and that's kind of really what my job is, or what
Hmm.
a PM's job is. I think we have evolved and matured greatly in the past couple of decades. Um, Number one, I think most organizations now, irrespective of what industrial domain that you belong in, it could be hospitality that I'm working in right now, travel and leisure. It could be education that I've worked in the past. It could be manufacturing and supply chain. It could be consulting. And just think about the broad spectrum of different industries that I have worked in. Uh, One thing that has been a common theme is data is still essential. It does not matter what type of work you do. And as we mature and we establish systems of record like a PPM, and as we see the evolution of tools like Power BI and Tableau and others that are coming to the fore, we see that there is an opportunity here that has been missed for so long, which is now readily available and at your disposal, is that you can easily integrate all of these very intelligent reporting tools back to your system of record and provide some of the insights and KPIs and data points that you always knew existed but did not know how to showcase. So I think that we are now moving into, as we go into the era of AI and machine learning, um, I think the next big evolution is going to be, or mature phase of maturity is going to be, I want to know what I might be encountering in the future based
Hmm.
on what I have seen for the past 3 or 4 years.
Right.
What do I need to expect from a futuristic model standpoint? How can I get ahead of that? How can I proactively make decisions? So it's not only leveraging the data you have, but then using it to start establishing what to expect in the future.
Mhm.
I think we're just at the inflection point of something that is going to be a huge disruptor in the PM space.
Yeah, I mean, right now we are obviously there's multiple tools out there that do what you just said,
Yeah.
and for the most part, future projections are basically predicted from explicit data being entered by project managers. So a human saying this is what we think it's going to be based after looking at it themselves in the past. And I do agree with you that using the AI, or not necessarily like free language AI, but more of the deep record data, you can look at your past data and then make a prediction or make multiple different predictions of what types of resources you would need and how much based on the past. But I think obviously it's going to still require some intervention where a PM will maybe like direct it. We think it's kind of going this way, but now what does that look like the modelers will be able to tell you, give you those outputs without you having to type it all in yourself.
Right.
So, but I mean, you'd be surprised how many people don't today still
Hmm.
are doing things like, oh, I have my independent Excel files or I have my Google Sheets out there. That's not unusual still to this day.
Can
That is part of the presentation that I did at the summit, uh, Trina, that you mentioned. I actually did some research on this.
Hmm.
Close to a quarter of all companies still use. They don't have a PPM. They still
Hmm.
use Excel spreadsheets. God forbid they're doing this on paper. I really hope not. That might still be happening in some places, but I think we can safely say that most people now have laptops or a digital
hmm
device on which they are managing their records and their projects. And that is still that's a big number. Think about it. A quarter,
it is a big.
25% of all businesses still using an Excel spreadsheet. I think they certainly have a huge opportunity to modernize and to
Yeah.
move the needle on how they need to mature their business architecture. No
We've
doubt.
been finding that companies also reach a stage in their growth where teams become separated. Sometimes we say disparate, but they're separated. They're doing things apart from one another, and so they are using separate software tools. They have a
Yeah.
different flow, and because of that growth and it not being a flat organization, suddenly there's a reversion to those older forms of project
Yeah.
management, right? You go back to spreadsheets or go back to Excel because you can no longer see that information across
Yeah.
tools.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that as you've remediated PMOs? I know you've
Yes.
taken it. Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah. I was I That's a great question because change management and change adoption are key to being able to transition from a certain kind of technology stack to another one.
Hmm.
And so what you as you were asking me that question, that I was literally just recalling all of the challenges that we've seen in being able to change mindsets of
Hmm.
our employees, and also to be able to build credibility into whatever you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I personally have experienced that as a leader, and what I have understood, because we all fail, and I did fail on a couple of occasions when I felt how hard, why is this hard to set, right? You think
Mm-hmm.
about something independently with your own viewpoint and think, well, this should set itself. This is a
Sure.
no-brainer. Everyone's just gonna like leap onto this
They won't be
initiative, and
Right.
able to
everyone's
wait.
just gonna start using it on day one. And
Exactly.
that typically never happens, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So the couple of things I've really recognized is, how do you empathize with the user and what they're going through?
Mm-hmm.
And what is, how do you treat your own team and the people that are going to be using these tools as clients? What is your customer? When you're thinking about your customer, you spend so much time in a business thinking about what your customer needs and how you're going to make them happy, and how are you going to delight them, and how are you going to get repeat business and grow your business and grow your market share. That's the same ideology that you need to bring to the table. What's in it
Mm-hmm.
for my team? Number one.
Right.
Number two, bring credibility from the standpoint of, I'm not trying to disrupt you from getting your job done. I'm trying to help you get it done faster and better.
You're right.
And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, I'm not going to replace your job. I think I'm going to offer you an opportunity to learn the next generation skill sets that you're going to
Yeah.
need to be
That's a great
successful.
point.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
we
think
had
that
a
has been, just Trina, to your point, that is something that I think has been so impactful, is to sell it and use the empathy, understand what they're feeling, and address it based on where they are, not from the standpoint of where you want them to be, but where they are and where they need to be, and how you can help them get
Yeah, for our audience, we kicked off our podcast series with an episode with Stephen Hall of Fairlife Milk. And
there. Okay.
Stephen started on the floor in production management when he first
Mhm.
started at Fairlife and moved into project management. And now in his project work, he can really step into all the roles he's been a part of and say, how is this going to impact this person's life? And this change impact this person's life? So he has this very interesting superpower of not just getting a project done and inspiring motivation, but translating that into how, can that work for you in your role going forward. But we'll drop a couple links. I think we should drop the link to your session at the PMI Institute. I'll put that in the
Absolutely.
show notes. I'm going to put Steven's episode there too, and we'll drop a few other notes to the. We had a change management webinar just this morning, so I'll put a few
Yeah, it's
links
funny that you
there.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
And interestingly too, you just mentioned treating your people like they're the clients, because I think a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
as project managers, we're always thinking about, oh, the client or my executive, my sponsor, my this, my that, and we're turning around and just expecting the team to just do what we want
Mm-hmm.
them to do because
Yeah.
the sponsor is important.
As we've gone through a lot of change within the organization, even here, even in previous jobs that I've done, it's about presenting it as an opportunity, not a threat. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when you go through a massive revolutionary transition in any industry, people think about that as, oh, well, how is this going to impact me? And how is this going to negatively impact my job? And am I still going to have a role to play or add value? And I think it's about just consistently and continuously telling them, listening to them for sure, but then also reminding them that yes, there is an opportunity here. You have a future, you have a role, and you have value.
And I would love to talk about your team for our audience. Right now, Mehul is working at Universal Destinations and Experiences, which encompasses all of their resort properties and entertainment parks and theme parks, I should say. What is it like to work there? It seems huge to me, but also fun. In fact, I'm going to read the mission. So the mission is great. I love it. It's got 3 bullets, but the mission of Universal is to ignite the thrill of being
Yes.
fully alive. That is awesome. And also
Right.
incite exhilaration and instigate the extraordinary. And then lastly, to go beyond fun to the place where screams are born and laughter thrives. What a cool
Yeah.
mission. That's awesome. Tell us about what it's like.
By the way, a lot of the people that wrote all of this and brought this to life, I have the pleasure of working with them almost on a
Wow.
daily basis. So, as you can imagine, it just reading this is probably bringing so much thrill to you. Uh,
Yes.
just think about what it does to people when they're actually in an attraction in the park, anticipating coming here, or
Yes.
have just completed a visit and how they've felt. It's great. It's I'm blessed to be here. I think we have a very unique culture that we have built within the company here of collaboration, of growth, of continuous learning, and to challenge the status quo. And that is kind of what the universal brand is all about. Is
Mm.
we want the guest to feel that we are constantly and continuously engaging them with unique experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to have a certain sentiment when they come here, when they are present, and when they leave, that is so unique and different from any other theme park experience. So I think the best part, to say this in briefly, we live the mission of the company every day, and I see that with my team. I see the excitement. I see their eyes light up when something that we've been working on so diligently is launching, especially from the guest standpoint, and what it's going to do for the guests. We really relish and we really enjoy the success that we see when we have a certain type of content that we produce that is bringing more foot traffic to the parks.
Hmm.
And we that really motivates us. That just pushes the boundaries. And we are fun, right? So all
Yeah.
of what you just said,
Yeah.
Yes.
we remind ourselves every day that we are here to make someone's day better. We want them to have a great experience. We want them to
Yeah.
carry that through the rest of
Right.
either their life or before they come back and see us again.
So many of us have been there to these parks, and we come in with all this anticipation of having like the best day. And you're
Yes.
behind the scenes with your team
Yeah.
setting up projects to make the best days. I mean, is there a project that your team has worked on that you really love? I mean, that it was just so fun to be a part of?
Yeah, I think there's many that come to mind, but a couple of years ago we launched a new coaster, which is now kind of almost a signature attraction for us.
Nice.
It's called the Velocicoaster, and it's based on the Jurassic Park theme,
Yeah.
or the Jurassic World theme. So that is something that people sometimes when they come and ride these coasters, they obviously really enjoy the experience. But there's
Yes.
so much work that goes behind the
Oh
scenes,
my
right
gosh.
from designing the attraction, architecting it, constructing it, all the creative design that goes into it,
Yeah.
the work that goes into building the excitement, building the marketing content for the guests to be able
Music,
to, yes, build
sound
that
effects,
anticipation.
the
Yes,
velociraptors coming out at
Do,
exactly,
you. I want the
exactly.
task for velociraptor
I know, right?
sound. Like, who gets assigned velociraptor sound? That's so good.
Yes.
Do you get to have
Uh,
your team
yes.
meetings at the park?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? We have some sound stages. We have certain
Oh, neat.
offices that are kind of right in the middle of the park. We don't necessarily always get to do that within the park. We have a campus that is right behind.
Yeah.
So our
Okay.
offices are
Okay.
like right behind the park. So we're not very far away. And honestly, we do see, we hear screams every
I was
single
going to
time
say, do
I,
you hear screams?
yes,
That would be
we do.
awesome. What a
Yeah,
reward. You'd be like, it's
yes.
working.
Yeah.
So one of our attractions, Rip Ride Rocket, that is literally visible from our offices. So
Okay.
when I'm either going to our parking lot or walking
Oh,
from one
wow.
campus building to the other, I literally see that coaster coming down, and the screams are
That's so
echoing
cool.
throughout. So
What a
it is
reward.
really exciting. I will say that I have been to the offices at Universal Studios Hollywood. We do
Okay.
support them as well, and I have a team there, and their offices are right next to City Walk. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
that's just a very different experience than
Yep.
we have. It's a little bit more corporate here because we have our own campus, and they do too. They have their own campus buildings, but it's right adjoining the City Walk, so they don't need a lot of motivation. They see those
No.
guests coming in, and they know how they're making a difference.
That's
Yeah, that
awesome.
is great. I mean, you can see the mission so closely tied to your project work and you can see that result and everyone who's coming to be a part of this can, see those tasks and their small part or their big part being a part of that final delivery and it turning out with screams and laughter. What a great way to work. That seems
It
wonderful.
is. It is. That is what keeps us going during difficult days, and that's what keeps me going. Is eventually, we will get past these hurdles, and we will be able to
Yeah.
provide a superior guest experience.
I know. I mean,
Well,
as guests, we always think, oh, there's just a new roller coaster, or there's a new this or that. We have no, as just guests, you don't like realize there's like a lot of work behind all of this.
I'd
Yes.
love to see that project plan for the
I'm sure it's huge.
Velocicoaster.
Uh,
That would be great. Well, Mehul, we
Yes.
do really want to thank you for joining us here today. I thank you for sharing your superpowers with us, for giving inspiration to other project management professionals and non-project managers who are listening to the show to understand, to incorporate that
yeah.
techno-functional leader skill of looking at other people's skill sets and talents and bringing those as a collaborative team effort when you know that that's going to bring the success that it does. I'm so glad that you have found this passion and that it's been able to be realized in your work. It's really exciting. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Trina, and thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Appreciate,
Thank you
and
very
I really
much.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
That's
that was great.
great. Thank you for joining us today on the Wear Your Cape to Work podcast, hosted by Project Insight. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, or leave us a comment. If you subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or other favorite podcast channels, you'll receive notifications of all of our new episodes. We'd also love it if you would share Wear Your Cape to Work with your network of PMPs or anyone else who might enjoy the show. Project Insight is an online project and portfolio management software that helps companies connect project data from across all of their teams and software tools so that they can make confident decisions about their business. Our website is projectinsight.com, and there you can find many resources for project professionals, including free PDU webinars, as well as a place to register for a demonstration or a consultation with one of our success teams. Thank you once again for joining today's conversation, and most importantly, thanks for wearing your cape to work.